Hey, what's up? This is DJ Olympus Mons with the Above Limits podcast. I'm broadcasting today. I know we haven't had a podcast in a little while, over a month, and I don't do podcasts without Sinbad, and basically our only communication is through Facebook Messenger because I had a Note 7, then I had to get a regular S Edge, and I lost his number. So the only way I could contact him is through Messenger, and he's a busy guy. So it was we that was our only means of communicating, and throughout this whole presidential election and whatnot, I had not heard from him, and I sent a message after message, like, "Yo, man, Trump won." All the stuff we'd been talking about and discussing and stuff, and not a word from him. I was like, "Geez, like, what's going on?" And he had told me a while back. He told me that he was sick, that he was sick, not playing around. Something serious happening to him. And the only thing I could do is be there for him. And when we had discussions of why we're doing this podcast, is because he wanted something to live on, and he wanted his story told. These are the things that he told me. After telling me he's sick, and what he was sick from was he told me it was organ failure, but from what I understood, it was really like pancreatic cancer. So, like, he was a little like me. I mean, since the last hangout, I've gained some weight because I'm getting old in my age, and I'm at that level where if I don't do something about it, I'm just going to keep on getting fatter. You know what I mean? I can't help it. I like to eat, and I like to enjoy myself. So he had gained some weight, and then he came back, and he was skinny as a bone. So I knew he was sick, and I mean, like I said, the only thing I could do is just be there for him. You know what I mean? And really, hold on one second. Let me take that off. There we go. The only thing I do is be there for him. You know what I mean? And enjoy my time with my buddy. This guy was my buddy. You know what I mean? We'll go further, but what had happened is when Trump won, he hadn't answered any of my messages for a while. So he told me he had pancreatic cancer. He told me he was sick. He told me he's dying. So I looked into obituaries, and he lives in Houston, so that's Harris County. And I put in his real name, Omar Baker, and a search did show up, but it said, nothing of just an obituary, like, hey, he just died from his illness. You know what I'm saying? His illness. What was there was a story from the Houston news station about a 20-year-old who had died driving an Explorer, high rate of speed. hitting a curb, going into a ditch, then hitting a tree, and the car rotating, coming to a stop with only one death, one fatality. And I was like, well, that's not Sinbad, you know. You know, this 20-year-old. He's my age, 30. He was 32. I'm 34, and so you know, I didn't think anything of it. I just said, oh well, you know, he's still around, you know. But you know, I had not heard from him at all. To now, we're now the 7th of December. So I was like, I'll get into more of the inner struggle that he dealt with. And I don't think he'd mind me saying this. I think he would want me to say this. Everything that I tell you today, I know him, and he'd want you want me to explain this. And he died in a car accident. He didn't die of pancreatic cancer. He didn't die as we had discussions about, you know, when you go to a doctor and a doctor says you could die from this disease, you could die from this illness, you know what I'm saying? Like, prepare yourself, you know. So I couldn't imagine that's type of stuff you see in the movies, you know what I mean? So I could not imagine such things happening in my life. I'd be devastated. But yeah, Sinbad, my co-host, passed away. He's it was on Halloween, and you know, the things we talked about here, and especially with the run up to the election, I feel he was cheated out of something, because we wanted to see this Trump election, this Trump victory. What would happen if he got elected, and what would happen if Hillary Clinton got elected? You know, we both wanted to see that, and I know he wanted to see that. And it's like he was so close, you know, and he didn't. Anyways, we can move forward. So my co-host passed away, and we did have these discussions of I'm telling you, we talked about these things of when he dies, what we wanted to do, and why he was doing this, why he was even a part of this thing with me. He said that he wanted me to keep on going, you know, that he didn't want it to stop, which for me is a little hard. I mean, to just come up here and talk for a while and come up with things straight off the head, and try to make it interesting where people don't fall asleep or, you know, tune off. So, you know, as far as going forward, he did tell me he wanted me to go forward, but he wanted to put his beliefs, or what he wanted to make his mark through this, and, you know, until it was that time, which trips me out, man, because the guy was telling me he had pancreatic cancer and that he was dying and that he could die. So, oh, okay. I remember I cut off a part of the story. So I looked today, and I see a GoFundMe for a memorial fund for him, and it's his picture and everything. He belonged to a fraternity, I believe. It was like an Asian fraternity. So there was a lot of Asian people, you know, RIP, and then I looked. I'm not on his friends list of his real name because of things that happened. Just people on the internet harassing him on a level of like, we'll get into that. Where he just wanted only his immediate family and friends on his Facebook, and we contacted through his DJ Sinbizzle Facebook, or Sinbad Facebook. And so I'm like, I'm thinking that he has pancreatic cancer, and that's how he died. And turned out it was him in the vehicle accident, which I could only imagine is just terrible way to go. But I'm gonna share a bit of information of, there was almost, we did a couple of episodes, and there was almost a end to this podcast completely, because he messaged me one day and said, I can't be your friend. I can't talk to you. I can't associate with anybody other than the people that he knows in real life, and that he didn't want to have an internet presence no more because of real paranoid talk. And I was like, dude, like, you're my bud. I messaged him back. You're like, you're my friend, dude. Like, you saying that, hurts my feelings. And, but then I was like on another kick where I was like, I didn't want to deal with people's emotions. You know what I mean? Like grown men's emotions. If you don't want to be my friend, I mean, I guess that's what you got to do. But, there's a lot of things that he was telling me. He said that people were shooting in front of his house and stuff like that. I'm like we'd be trying to do a show, and he'd be like, I can't do the show, man. People are shooting in front of my house and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, like get it together. Nobody's out to get you. You know what I mean? Like, get it together. And when he got on camera, like I am, his composure was normal. I mean, there was no type of like, you know, battle with mental illness happening that I saw. But he told me he didn't want to do the show no more. And, I gave him my pretty long disapproval of what he was doing, and the chemistry that we had, and the knowledge that we were giving out. It was actually good. It wasn't bad at all. So, I would disapprove of him telling me that. And I'd say probably about 3 weeks later of me saying, thinking, well, there goes the Above Limits podcast. He messaged me and said, you know what, I got to do this because of his sickness, his illness, that it wouldn't, that this is how he wants to, what is it? Like when you're gone, this is how he wants to be remembered. This is like a dimension in which he lives forever until YouTube wipes their servers clean, etc. So so we started doing shows again. We had Ryan Dawson on, which was a big deal for us, for me, because I love Ryan Dawson. I love what he is about, and I wish I had that type of information. And there's a thing about Sinbad, is that he had that type of information. He was one of my go-to guys on the occult side of everything, the just everything, have stuff with history, and then his knowledge on the Middle East and the battles of power there, and what he saw in the future of the Middle East. I mean, that's who I believed when he spoke. So, I'd like to get to the part of how I met Sinbad or Omar. Uh, we ran a room called the NWO and UFO room. It's a chat room that was on a website called Stickam, and we talked about the New World Order, and we talked about aliens, you know, and if NWO UFO, that's what the topic was about, and then politics and religion and um, things like that. And one day, this dude, we had so many characters come in there, just people that were full of shit, people that were intellectuals, people that were religious, people that were fanatical or fascist. And one day, this dude comes in there, this young cat, and he's like, this is about 5 or 6 years ago, and he's just spitting all this knowledge about aliens and stuff like that. He didn't go on camera. He's he using the regular microphone on his camera. You know what I mean? Just a mysterious fellow. You know what I mean? Just putting out all this knowledge, and he was genuinely into this discussion: aliens and the New World Order and the Illuminati and the occult and stuff like that. And we would just that turned into a friendship, and all the other characters being friends, and then the battles between Sin. That's what we called him. His name was Sin. For the show, I told him, hey, you should be Sinbad. You know what I mean? I think that's better than Sin. And he agreed, but we called him Sin. And DJ Sin Bizzle, DJ Sin, Sinbad. And he would, people did not like what he had to say. Most people loved what he had to say. Most people were just entranced by his voice and the things that he had to say. And then there were some people that would just come and want to bulldoze anything he was talking about, because number one, they were usually atheists. Number two, they didn't believe in mumbo jumbo and stuff like that. But it didn't take away from his uniqueness, and we became friends, and it was probably since then a friendship that lasted. And I'm from Texas. I'm from probably 4 hours away from him, and I'd go visit Houston every once in a while. I'd be like, hey, let's meet up, and we'd probably be like an hour away from each other, because it'd be on the other side of Houston where I'm at, and then he's over in Sugar Land. That's like when you first get into Houston. So it never worked out. I was usually on work stuff, and we made plans to meet up. We never met up. We never hung out in real life. I mean, he was into his DJing. He was into making films. He has a Power Rangers fan what is it? Was it fan made movie? And he was trying to do the Star Wars one. He was almost done with it. And man, I think if he could have taken it back, if he could have looked, he'd been like, dang, that's how I went out. And I had so much that I had to do, so much still that I wanted to do, and he wasn't able to do it. So much that he wanted to see the world 4 years from now or in the future, that hopefully each and every one of us will have plenty of years to see. I mean, he would probably kicked himself in the head, but yeah, man, the dude was a great guy. I mean, I can't say one bad thing about him. If I wanted to conspiracize, he did talk about people wanting to take him out. That's part of the reason why he didn't want to do the podcast, because he felt like it was getting too deep. And I don't think he'd mind me sharing that. I mean, he told me like people are shooting in front of my house and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, there's nobody there, bro. And I mean, you're okay. And you know, different things like that. Like, you know, hopefully they didn't take my boy out. You know, like I don't see why, but maybe he had to. He was very knowledgeable about things, man, about how the future was going to be. You know, and you know, I wish I knew his mother and father so I could tell them, you know, how much he was a friend to me and how he affected me in life. I haven't cried. I mean, I don't know what that means, but he was a really good friend of mine, though. I mean, we wouldn't have been doing this podcast. You know, we had great chemistry together, natural chemistry, and you know, when we would stop the broadcast, we would probably still talk for another hour. You know, just or an hour before and an hour after the broadcast. I mean, it wasn't a shock to me because he told me he was dying. He told me he had the terminal illness. So it's not a shock to me that I see his name in the obituary. I see his name as a victim of a fatality. I think that's the reason why that I'm prepared for it, because he told me I'm dying. You're going to be doing the show without me someday. So as far as the future of this show, I'm kind of like the hype man. You know what I mean? Like, I know what I know. I can, you know, keep the flow, but I'm not that smart. I'm not that learned, you know, but I got to keep the show going. We hadn't made a video because I hadn't been able to talk to him. I mean, I didn't know if he was mad at me or something, or, you know, he just said, I'm not doing the show with you anymore, you know, or he passed away, because he had told me that he didn't want to do the show because he was getting too deep. And then he told me he wanted to do the show because it was part of, you know, him living on. So I didn't know what he was thinking, you know. I didn't know if he was alive or dead, and he told me he was going to die. I mean, so as far as the show, I mean, I know we only have 12 subscribers, not that many views. You know, I will do it to keep it on in his name, in his remembrance, in his honor, to keep the show going like he told me to do. I just don't think I'm that interesting. I have my own YouTube channel that I do my stuff, you know, but it's not for an hour or 30 minutes straight of me talking. But I'm going to figure that out. And I from what we talked about when we discussed his illness and stuff, like, he wanted me to keep on going. So I'm still grasping the idea of him being gone forever, because he was a good guy. He was a really great human being. He was a really, really great human being. And to see his face in an obituary or a memorial fund, to hear a story of how he passed away, it's not nice. It's not. I just honestly hope that he wasn't hurting inside, and maybe there's more to his death other than just, hey, one day I got in a car accident. You know what I mean? They say there was no intoxicants in him. I mean, I don't know. I love the dude. I mean, there's certain people you meet on the internet that you'll probably never meet, but they're special, and that's one thing that he is. And always remember him. And stay tuned, because I'm gonna think about this. I may not post a video here very soon, but there will be more available for the Above Limits podcast.